All right, we're back. And last time we talked about running the analysis and asking what counts as sufficient writing. Okay. Check it out. NFL search over here. Seahawks up by 10. Hopefully, we win. I don't know, man, but I was expecting us to tank. So if we lose, that made expectations. If not, great. Um, Go Gino. But we asked what is sufficient writing, and now we're going to look at section 139, in which it's kind of like a reliance thing, but they're also kind of uh, driving the point that you can't use statute of frauds to like get out of something, to scam others. And so as you can imagine, maybe like an oral deal was made and it was something that falls within the classes of the statute of frauds. Like maybe it's a good that was over $500. So it falls into the statute of frauds through the UCC, right? But you never signed anything, right? Like you can't use the statute of frauds after it's done to be like, well, we never signed anything, so I don't owe you. And 131 explicitly calls that out. Okay. So, um, what am I doing? What am I doing? 139. Let's read this first and then we'll talk about it. Subsection 1, a promise which the promisor should reasonably expect to induce action or forbearance on the part of the promisee or a third person, and which does induce the action or forbearance is enforceable, notwithstanding the statute of frauds, if injustice can be avoided only by enforcement of the promise. The remedy granted for breach is to be limited as justice requires. Okay. This is a little different from promissory estoppel in that reliance isn't needed here, right? But if it falls under the statute of frauds and there's no writing and somebody's just trying to pull a fast one, you're going to enforce the promise. That's what 139 subsection 1 says. Okay. Um, And subsection 2 is in determining whether justice can be avoided only by enforcement of the promise, the following circumstances are significant. And so, in determining, like, if something was so unfair to somebody as subsection 1 is saying, this is what we consider. These are factors, they're not elements. Okay. So, we consider A, I don't have my annotation. The availability and adequacy of other remedies, particularly cancellation and restitution. And so if you could run a different remedy, right? If you can run like, let's say, it's you could run unjust benefit, right? Then do that. Or if you need to cancel the deal, like you can kind of put people back to where they were before the deal, right? You can do that. B, the definite and substantial character of the action or forbearance in relation to the remedy sought. So how big was the deal, right? Was this like a 500 or sorry, like a $550 TV in which, I don't know, man, like you traded some parts of it? I think that might count, right? But courts might be reluctant to enforce that. C, the extent to which the action or forbearance corroborates evidence of the making and terms of the promise, or the making and terms are otherwise established by clear and convincing evidence. So if the alleged promises, like it was very clear that they expected, or the person that got the promise was going to do the action or forbearance, um, then like then run it. You know. D, the reasonableness of the action or forbearance, speaks for itself. E, the extent to which the action or forbearance was foreseeable by the promisor. And so the reasonableness of everything, and then like, did the promisor believe Like, was it reasonable for them to see that they would rely or do the action in which they said they were going to do? Okay. That is another exception. Okay. And so we looked at one exception, right? The promissory estoppel exception. And then two is the 139 exception, which is if people are trying to get out of it because they're just trying to like scam you, so to speak. I say scam in quotations. Okay. The case to illustrate this point will be I think it's going to be Alaska. No, 139. What did I say? 139. Yeah, I think it's the Alaska Democratic Party versus Rice. And so to illustrate this point, P, the Alaska Democratic Party, it was the committee chair, and he wasn't committee chair when he had made the promise, but the eventual committee chair, I believe, I think committee chair, maybe some other position, but where it was in a conversation with Rice. I think her first name was Catherine, and she was on working in politics in Maryland, and the plaintiff said, I'd love to hire you, as committee chair. I'd 2-year contract. You and me, we're gonna change things, and that I think that little joke taken from Vesta right there. And so she actually turns down a job in which she got in order to go because he eventually ended up being committee chair. And so she goes there, moves there on reliance of that promise. And remember, the contract or the promise that was given was you're going to work for me for 2+ years. Okay. And so if you run the analysis, you go, oh, oops. Oh, dang. Right. It's not within the statute of frauds because of the UCC. It's not a marriage. It's not behalf deceased. It's not assuming the debts of others. It's not a land contract, but it is a 1+ year contract, right? You can't do that contract unless you work for 2 years. And so D reneges, not because it's unclear whether he actually wanted to renege, but other people within the party of the committee or board, other people were like, you can't do that. And so she's without a job and she already moved. So now we ask, well, is it enforceable still? Or was it enforceable? And so statute of frauds, does it apply? Kind of. Actually, I'm going to change this. Just straight up yes. Okay. Yes, because the one you're writing. So also I missed this detail. There wasn't writing. It was all kind of a phone call. And so it falls under this, right? Was there writing? No. Or sorry, we go to this. Is there writing? No. And so we ask, is there exception? And so we go, yes, there is an exception though. Because one, there was a reliance on it. And then the court also applied 139, 1 and 2, because there wasn't easy ways to pay her back from this. And not only that, but like it was just like, it was a big deal. Like she moved her life, you know what I mean? And so, applying A and B together, you apply D here too a little bit, and E for that matter. Yeah, so you can run this whole gamut. Yeah, clear convincing evidence. Yeah, I mean, run this whole thing on the facts of this case, and you will see that 139 will apply. Okay. So my next video is going to be the last one, actually, and then we're all caught up with this semester. Whoa. So stay tuned, y'all.